This is Ken Mexler from Coffee Crafters, and we have a guest today, Jonathan Wells, who's the Vice President of Sales for iFillCups. And if any of you watch our videos, you know I'm always pushing these pods because I've tortured tested them, and I actually use them every day. And so I thought it'd be a great opportunity to have Jonathan tell you the more technical stuff about the pods that I don't know, and explain how the system works. So go ahead, Jonathan.
Thank you, Ken. And hello to everybody out there. So what's unique about the iFill pod is unlike the standard product or the conventional product that you'll find out there, you've got three different components. There's a cup, there's a filter, and there's a lid. Most of what you're going to find on the shelf or out there online is going to be three different materials for those components. You've got a plastic cup, a paper filter, and a foil lid. What's unique about the iFill system pod is that each of those components is made from the same material. So you've got a polypropylene number 5 cup, polypropylene number 5 filter, and polypropylene number 5 lid. That does a couple things for us. One is it allows the end user to be able to recycle this in its entirety. Unlike these pods, which have a foil lid and a paper filter, all of those three things would have to be separated cleanly to be recycled, and there's a problem in doing that. So part of our design is actually it enables the end user to recycle it easily, unlike these other ones. You don't have to get dirty. You can squeeze the pod, rinse the grinds out, and then this can go in the same container because it's the same material as your yogurt cup and cottage cheese container. So that makes it unique in that respect. Because we're not using a paper filter, and I don't know if the lighting will show this, but this paper filter in the conventional pod is very thin and it's very weak. And if I could pull it out of there without getting dirty, I could pull that apart very easily. Because it's so thin and weak, these conventional pods, the only way to hold up to the pressure of the brewer is to go with a fairly coarse grind and to keep that bottom of that filter off the bottom needle. So just some basic stuff here. Needle on top, hot water goes in, needle on the bottom where the coffee comes out. If that thin paper filter gets anywhere close to that bottom needle, it'll just blow out during that pressurized brew. If there was enough light, you could see that the bottom third of this conventional cup is basically empty. It's just air. And so some of the reputations that these pods have gotten in terms of a watery cup is well deserved because of the coarse grind, because of the weak paper filter, and that filter being elevated. So you've got less coffee at a coarser grind, and we know what that does. So this pod, and he's got one that's full of coffee. You can, I don't know if the light will shine through, but that filter goes down to the bottom of the cup. So you can get typically at least 50% more coffee. You can cut that grind in half that you would find in a pod like this. The combination of those two things will actually give you a TDS and extraction ratio that's twice as strong as what's out there.
That's why I use these. So this one has 14 grams of coffee in it, and I use this for my morning coffee because it fills up my morning mug coming to work. And yeah, I really have tortured these. So when you guys were talking about originally when I met the crew, they were talking about the one-way gas valve on the seal or something. I didn't quite believe that. So you may have seen my other video that I did where I actually immersed these underwater overnight to see if water would go back in, and they were dry as a bone. So like I've told you, we used to manufacture K-cups here, and if you didn't let them off gas for, it was 12 to 18 hours, it'd blow the seal off.
Yeah.
So we let them off gas in a big, and then we would package them. These you fill them right out of the roast, grind, and
Fill same day.
yeah, same day, and it uses its own CO2 to off gas, and you're good to go.
So I can touch on that just a little bit. The conventional pod is a heat seal. There's not a heat seal on this. This is what we call a compression seal. So you've got an outside diameter of this ring and an inside diameter at the top of the cup, and those measurements are virtually the same, so that when you close that, it's very tight. We also have a thin bead of food grade adhesive that goes around this compression ring. And when that gets closed and it's fully seated, that will basically allow the pod to burp, that's a technical term, releasing the gas that's coming out of the pod, and then it seals right back up. So in essence, it's eliminated for some of the bigger operations, degassing silos for the coffee that's going into these pods. There's huge savings on the equipment there, not to mention the fresh factor, which is obviously a big one as well.
Yeah, so one thing interesting about this, so when we were doing our K-Cup thing, we were taste testing, and you put this in the pod, and it takes a few days before it reaches its really, that really flavor where it's at its best. You did a video with a cupper in Hawaii, and I watched the video, and he was amazed like I was. He found the same thing. After a few days, you can get some really good coffee out of the pods, and that was shocking. I'm kind of a coffee snob, but I'm not as snobby as I used to be because this is my morning coffee. So.
Right? Yeah, there's probably 50 million of those brewers at home, and to be in the roasting business or selling coffee and not taking advantage of the fact that there's probably half this country has got a Keurig or something like it, and I'm not a Keurig guy, but they did create this market. But it also, these pods now enable you, if you're in the coffee business, to produce a pod and give your end user basically the experience you want them to have every single time. Something to think about when you talk to the guys that are buying your equipment. If you go to the SCA's website, you end up on their heritage brew standards, and there's something called Golden Cup. But there's all these factors that come into play. It's the grind, it's the temperature of the water, it's the coffee to water ratio, it's brew time or water contact time. All those things come into play, and when you sell a bag of whole bean, even if you got instructions on the bag, you don't know what they're doing at home. But we know every one of those conditions every time they hit the start button on a Keurig brewer, so you're able to formulate this pod to give your customer the experience you want them to have every single time.
Bottom line for our roasting customers who get requests for the pods, coffee's about marketing. We were talking about that earlier.
Absolutely.
If you don't have a marketing advantage with your product, it's like, why is this product better than that pod right there? And there's two things that I think really give it that marketing message. One of them, it actually is recyclable. Because I don't care if you put recyclable on one of these pods, nobody recycles them. And at the recycle facilities, they'll tell you that they just trash them. They don't actually recycle them. The other thing is, this pod right here has twice as much coffee in it, or like 50% more coffee than this pod. And I make my 12-ounce cup of coffee in the morning, and it makes a big, full flavored cup of coffee. Yeah. That's the advantage as your marketing message to your customer. If you've seen the little seal machines, they got like 4 stations, 6 stations, whatever. We actually bought one of those, the hand crank heat seal one for the foil thing. They are really slow. Bryce, who's behind the camera here, can attest to that because we had one and it was really slow. I've timed myself so many times just filling these by hand with the little weigh and fill machine. I do 12 a minute. It takes 5 seconds per pod to do these. Yep. So for somebody introducing, I say, don't buy one of those machines. Just buy one of these because you just buy the cups and you can seal them. And if you get an order for 10 dozen of these, you're only going to be busy for 10 or 15 minutes and you're going to be done. Yep. So it's a great way to get into the pod.
Thanks for pointing that out. That's definitely one of the beauties of this design is that it allows a roaster to actually fill by hand. So I'll get calls all the time. Hey, what's the least expensive cost of entry for filling these pods? And I go, well, you can literally put coffee in it and close it by hand, and you can do that in just a matter of seconds. Now, once you start getting into mass production mode, that's going to get old really fast, but it's a great way to get started. So at that point, we can have another conversation about some filling equipment. And we've got stuff that'll do anywhere from 800 an hour all the way up to
and we've had some of our customers outgrow
Yes.
this and are using your system. The
Absolutely.
people that have our roasters. So
Yeah, the coffee crafters equipment and those that are using it end up being a great partnership with the guys at iFill as well.
cool. Well, it was great having you here today. Thanks
Yeah,
for
thank you.
stopping by, talking about the cups. I tell people about these all the time, not because I get a kickback from you, because I actually like your product. So,
Yeah, he actually uses it.
so we're gonna go back to work now, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.